welcome everyone. We're watching or listening, depending on whether you're using the podcast audio version or video version, Talk-o-nomics. So today we have a very interesting guest on Yavin from Cointelligence. Welcome.
Thank you.
We're here in this nice space at level 39. It's one of the leading fintech communities, so in the heart of the financial center in London. But we're not going to talk about the traditional finance. Today we're talking about blockchain and all the exciting changes that it brings to our lives. So I guess let's start from the very beginning and try to understand how did you end up in blockchain, because this is not something that people say, in my childhood I dreamed to be a blockchain expert, right? It's relatively new space. So how did you end up being in that space?
So thank you for having me. I got a phone call from a good friend of mine almost 2 years ago, and he introduced me to blockchain and crypto. He told me that he's planning to stop working in the company that he was working in, and he's going to go into blockchain and crypto. And after he explained to me, it took only 25 minutes. And I decided that I'm shifting aside everything that I was doing back then. I was involved in about 6 different companies, some of them high-tech, most of them high-tech companies. And I decided that that's the future for mankind, and it's going to change the way that we live, and it's going to disrupt most of the industries out there. And I still think the same.
Wow.
And and I decided that I have to be a part of this amazing revolution.
Well, 25 minutes. I mean, Bitcoin has been around for over 10 years and some people still don't get it. So 25 minutes was very fast for such a decision, I guess.
I have to say that after 25 minutes, I decided that I'm going into it, but it took me about 2.5 months to really grasp and understand what it is all about. So I had the gut feeling, but it took me a lot longer to really understand what it is.
Okay, so now, like, once you made the decision and then you took your time to understand it, what is that? There are loads of benefits and loads of exciting aspects of the blockchain technology. If you had to pick like one thing that is like you found it like the most important and the most exciting out of them all, which one would it be?
That's easy. So I would say that the biggest impact that I see blockchain is doing and going to do is to, and it's blockchain and crypto, it's to allow people to have complete economic freedom. Today, people think that their money in the bank is safe. They think that their money in the bank is owned by them, and they're completely wrong.
It's owned by the banks.
Absolutely wrong. It's owned by the governments and the banks. They are in full control of it.
Yeah.
And it amazes me every time, all over again, when I see that it's the complete opposite of what people think. Just to give you one example, and it happens to me every few months, some kind of interaction with one of my bank accounts happens and gets me all worked up again. And the last example was that one of my bankers asked me to sign a physical form to transfer funds to another bank account. Now, just to make things very clear, I was asking to transfer funds from an account registered under my name to another account registered under my name in another country. Just to get things very clear, it wasn't to another company, it wasn't to another individual, it was my own money in my bank account, and I wanted to transfer it to another bank account owned by me. And they didn't let me do it until I signed a physical form.
Okay, yeah, well, that's interesting. So, I mean...
The other option was to fly to the other country and sign physically there, but obviously...
Yeah.
And we're in 2019.
we are in 2019. We have this technology already. We have cryptocurrencies. We do transfer from wallets to wallets, right? So we have kind of, but again, at one point, we do need to interact with the bank, even, when we liquidate the same cryptocurrency at one point, right? So when you say complete freedom, if we have to project it into the future, what kind of time frame you think we will reach that ultimate freedom? How long? Is it 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? Because the mass adoption is a very big challenge these days, right?
Yes, absolutely. I think that realistically, we are looking at 10 to 15 years. It might happen sooner. There might be world events that will make it happen much sooner. But if I'm being on the safe side, I would say 10 to 15 years. And you have to remember one thing. I mean, many people talk about the mass adoption progress. Many people talk about the fact that you have to have interaction with banks, with fiat, and so on. But we are already seeing progress that is the exact opposite. Because today, for example, I have in my wallet 2 credit cards that are enabling me to use my crypto, and the merchants don't even know that I'm using my crypto. So they're getting fiat, so you can say that maybe there's an interaction here, but again, it's not a direct interaction because I'm using crypto and they're getting fiat. So it's, let's say, a semi-interaction. But again, to have like full usage of crypto will take some time, but I'm sure that we'll get there.
So you said if something happens, it may go faster. And I have to ask you this because it's been like around in my feeds everywhere, like on Facebook, LinkedIn, everywhere. Do you think that something may be Facebook's Libra coming out?
So no, I don't think that's what will happen. I mean, maybe that's a nice reason as well. Speaking of Libra, I don't think that Libra is a real cryptocurrency. I think it's a fake cryptocurrency. I actually made a name for it. It's a Crapcoin. I'm not calling it shitcoin because we know that shitcoins don't have any value. And in Libra's case, I do think that it will have value. I just think it's a complete fake cryptocurrency for so many reasons. And I had to say it before I'll give you the other reason. The other reason is another financial crisis. It's very simple. We are supposed to have the upcoming financial crisis in the next few years. It's very simple. We have a cycle of financial crises, and the next one should happen in the next few years. And whenever that happens, it will boost up crypto big time.
Okay, I see. So let's follow your path. So you took that 25 minutes, you made the decision, you took the 2.5 months to actually get into it. So what was your route? Like, I know many people say once we discover blockchain and crypto, we fall down the rabbit hole, and then it leads you to different places you didn't really imagine you would end up with. So what happened next?
So my first initial thought was that it's a huge upcoming industry that is going to make such a difference, and it's also a great opportunity to make a lot of money. So the combination of these two things made me go into it. I have to mention that I was there when the internet revolution happened. And I felt very similar feelings to when I discovered the internet revolution. I was a part of it actually when it was built up, because back in these days, we used analog connections to connect between modems, like you see in the old movies that you see the modems making all the sounds, the weird sounds.
No, I'm old enough to have been there as well, so I've heard the sounds.
Okay. Many people that I talk about, when I talk about it, they don't have any clue what I'm talking about. What modems making noises? What are you talking about? It reminds me of a video that was running a huge viral video going online when you see teenage American kids trying to dial up
the phone,
a phone with
the analog phone, yeah.
exactly. And
Yeah,
for 20 minutes,
true.
they just couldn't figure out how to make a phone call,
True,
no matter
true.
what they did. It was really funny. Anyways, so back to your question, I got into it, and as I got more and more into it, I just realized the huge possibilities, the huge potential that we have. And you asked me about the one biggest thing, which is economic freedom, in my opinion. But the way that I see it, blockchain is going to completely disrupt everything from the legal industry to the real estate industry to the obviously financial industry to medical to research to so many different industries, and also including the high-tech industries, because also if you take the autonomous vehicles, you're going to have blockchain at some point. I mean,
Yeah.
Today there's no question about that. It's funny, when I was speaking on stages last year, at the beginning of the year, I was pretty sure about it, but I had a hint of doubt. Today I don't have any doubt. I mean, it's complete,
Okay.
it's obvious, like the sun is rising in the morning. And I saw that it's going to change so many industries, and it just got me more and more going and more obsessed with it. And I'm completely obsessed with blockchain and crypto. And I realized that it's really to be a part of the if not the biggest, one of the biggest revolutions and changes in human history.
Okay, so you've been there since then, and you know we see the logo of Cointelligence.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit what it is and what do you do there.
Okay. So at Cointelligence, we do research and analysis, basically.
Yeah.
We do a lot of due diligence. When we started, we decided that we want to be a one-stop shop for everyone, engage everyone that is a part of the industry or is interested in the industry. So it should be for beginners and for very well progressed investors or traders and so on and so on. So what we did, we decided that we want to present the data. Then we decided that the industry doesn't have even one completely impartial and objective rating system. Some people get upset at me when I say there's no one out there, but I am saying that there's no one out there because even if there are impartial lists or rating systems, they're too small. They're not doing a comprehensive rating system that really gets you anything that you need.
Yeah.
We actually analyze everything. Everything from the team to the tech to the vision to the execution or to the potential execution, because if we were doing rating for ICOs, then everyone knows that it's all potential and maybe will happen and so on. And but today, when we do the rating for the exchanges, it's only for operational exchanges. So we actually check the accessibility, the user interface, user experience, basically everything. So back to the story, we started doing the rating, and we started to giving scores to different projects. If it's ICOs, we started doing it for STOs, but then before we published it, we realized that it would be illegal to publish rating for STOs.
Yeah, because it's a highly regulated field, right?
Securities, and we didn't want to get into that. So we just put aside all the ratings that we did for STOs, and we did the rating for coins, and then we moved on to do rating for exchanges. So we're very, very much into the due diligence and rating system that we developed. Again, I will say it's completely impartial. You can never pay to get a score on our rating system.
Okay. Yeah.
And beside that, we are very much into education. We are publishing a lot of professional guides. We do a lot of professional content. We started about 6 months ago. We started Cointelligence Academy, when we teach We did it across the UK in different universities. And actually next month we're starting the first online Cointelligence Academy. We're very excited about it.
Nice.
We're going to teach beginners everything from scratch. Blockchain, crypto, what's Bitcoin, what's Ethereum, how to open an account on a crypto exchange, what makes an exchange a legit exchange, what you should be aware of, what you should be careful about, and so on, up to the level where we actually teach how to do due diligence. If you want to become a crypto investor, what you need to know, what you need to check, and so on and so on. The last thing that we do at Cointelligence is scam hunting. That's the our favorite
That's,
part.
I guess, it is the most important part that we will dive into, I guess.
And yeah, so we'll dive into that. So I'll just say that we're doing scam hunting. It's not something that we do as a part of our business plan, but it's something that we think is probably the most important thing.
I'm actually happy that you put it as a separate category, because before that you also said that you have been rating ICOs. And so do you have any, like, going back from your historical rating to later on what happened to that specific project, do you, I mean, have any accuracy, because it was all kind of, you know, rating, predicting the future probably. So do you now have a picture of what happened to the ICOs you ranked low or high? Like, was it really accurate ranking?
Well, it's pretty easy to answer that question because most of them failed. So, so if we gave we gave a high score to someone, then it's very rare that they succeeded. But actually, I think that we did a pretty good job, especially by warning the public, because we gave most of our scores are low. So
okay.
Unfortunately, not all of them, by the way. You do find a project that got a high score, but I will answer your question not with regards to the ICOs, but with regards to the exchanges, and you'll understand why. So first, we took the ICO and STO rating system. We shifted it to the exchanges rating system. We decided to focus on exchanges.
Okay.
And we can see very clear correlation between the low scores, especially when we give a 0, because it's divided into different categories.
Oh,
so if one of the categories is 0,
yeah,
we see a very clear correlation between the exit scams that we've seen in the last few months to our low score.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So scam hunting and, you know, exit scams, and, you know, you started with rating the ICOs. The problem with ICOs is very often, as you said, you know, most of them failed, but, you know, most of the startups fail as well. So 90% of startups fail. So the problem with this space that I see is the blockchain ICOs who failed, usually there is no middle ground. It's either a scam because they failed, or like, you know, it just succeeds. There is, because it's crypto related, it's associated with a scam straight away, but it could have been a failure. So how do you differentiate, like, how do you make sure that you get the right evaluation of what actually happened?
So that's a really, really great question. And it will be split into a few parts. One, my experience and background is an angel investor. That's what I've been doing 10 years before, almost 10 years before I got into, almost 10 years ago, I became an angel investor. So that's about 8 years before I got into blockchain and crypto. Now, I'm all about entrepreneurship. I've been an entrepreneur probably all my life, or most of my adult life. And I'm all about dreaming, I'm all about fantasy, I'm all about disruption, I'm all about changing the world, and so on and so on. And that's great. But when we started doing the rating for ICOs, we had huge problems with the following. First of all, it's great that you want to change the world, but with all due respect, if you're an ICO saying that you're going to land blockchain on the moon, or if you're developing a blockchain phone, or if you're obviously using the blockchain word just because it's a buzzword, that's ridiculous to us, and we've figured it out, and we noticed when people are using it as a buzzword. Second, mostly important, is the team. When we noticed that there's ICO teams, and I'm talking to you about hundreds of ICO teams with no experience or knowledge at all. I'm talking to you about whole teams none of them was an entrepreneur. None of them was working in a corporate, or none of them had any kind of blockchain experience.
So it was their first experience.
Exactly.
ICO straight away.
And I'm talking about three different types of no experience and knowledge. That's ridiculous. I mean, seriously, even so, and you know what kind of answers we used to get? Oh, we got one of the best blockchain advisors with us.
Yes.
Come on, what you're talking to me about an advisor that I see his picture on 50 websites, that he doesn't really advise you. It's all rubbish. I mean, he's getting paid in order to have his picture on the ICO website. Now, that's the second part, the team and no knowledge and experience. So whenever we see that kind of team, it drops the score very, very fast and a lot. Another type of, and you said it's either a scam or success. I'm saying in the middle, as a part of what I just mentioned and other things, you have the mini scammers. That's another thing that I had to make up, because they're not scammers. They're not looking to steal and cheat and run away.
Okay.
But they allow themselves to raise money from the public when they don't have experience.
Okay.
They allow themselves to make all kinds of promises. Just to give you an example, I mean, it's 2019, and I'm shocked that people are still trying to do the same things that people did in 2018 and 2017. Someone approached me and offered me to be an advisor, and he tells me, we are going to the moon, you're going to become a billionaire if you join our advisory.
Okay.
I asked him...
Very ambitious.
Yes, I asked him, are you serious? I mean, how come you're even promising me, and I have it written, obviously, which is, it's incredible, all over again. I mean, how do you promise me the moon, and I'm going to be a billionaire? Did you ever run a startup? Did you ever did an exit? Do you have any experience? He said, no. He said, do you understand blockchain or crypto? He said, yes. I said, oh, for how long do you understand? He goes about, what, a month or two or something like that. I said, how the hell are you promising me all these kind of promises? You don't have a clue what you're going to do or not do. And on top of that, you're not even offering me any kind of payment. He said, no, I am offering you. You're going to become a millionaire as soon as we raise the funds.
Yeah.
As soon as we do the exit. Come on.
So
I call that mini scamming, because even if the intentions of the person are good, I don't care. You're raising money from the public. You don't have the decency to be truthful about the situation. And that's why I mentioned at the beginning that I am all about entrepreneurship, about changing the world. Don't get me wrong. But you have to be also realistic, and you have to be reliable and real.
Yeah.
And another example that I'll give you, and that's the last example because I have so many, I have dozens of examples.
I can imagine.
Mini scammers that are adding partners to their partners section that never heard about them, never talked to them, never agreed on anything. I'm not even talking about signing an agreement, never even talked to them. And we've seen hundreds like that. So these are just a few examples of mini scammers. So it's not always the scams and the successful ones. You have the mini scammers in the middle, and you have about a dozen different mini scammers types.
So that's the ICO part. It feels like, you know, there aren't many ICOs around these days anymore. So the whole cowboy world and, you know, the whole kind of roller coaster journey is more or less dried out already. Now we have this new hype around IEOs, and now we have this new kind of players coming into place and new gatekeepers being the exchanges. So you mentioned that you are rating the exchanges, and what's happening in that space? First of all, like, do you think that IEOs are better versions of ICOs? Because that's what I've heard recently, and that's what's going on. It feels like there is a hype because people think it's better. Do you think it's better?
So I have a very clear answer. There is one advantage with running an IEO, and the advantage, and it's a huge advantage, that you get listed immediately, and you don't need to chase the exchanges to get listed after the ICO.
Yeah.
So that's a huge advantage. And that advantage also includes the fact that you do get to be exposed to the exchange database, to the exchange users. So that's one advantage. On the other hand, it's the worst type of ICO if you compare it to ICOs, because A, it's completely non-decentralized.
Yeah.
It's all up to the exchange.
Yeah.
Second, there's no transparency at all, zero transparency, because the exchange do not disclose any of the details beside the token sale details.
Okay.
You don't really know if someone actually invested, because nothing is transparent. And I'm talking not only between the exchange to the public, I'm also talking between the exchange to the founders. I've heard founders complaining about the fact that they don't even know what really happened while the IO was
really
going.
Yeah.
So that's the second reason. The third reason is that it's not open to the public. With ICOs, we had something amazing.
Yeah.
We had the opportunity for everyone to participate and invest. And that's another thing as a part of what I mentioned to you at the beginning when I said complete economic freedom.
Yeah.
It's also about fundraising and investments.
Yeah.
It's open to everyone. Not anymore. With IOs, it's only open to a very, very small list of people. It's not even open to all the exchange users.
Okay.
In some cases, it's open to some of the exchange's users. And that's why I don't like IEOs, for that reason. But having said that, I don't like them the way that they are now. I do think that there is a huge potential for IEOs if it will be managed in the right way. Okay. And it made you think about it, because we were talking about the exchange's rating system. So obviously, there is a very significant part of investing in IEOs that takes us to the exchange, because it also very much dependent on the exchange itself. Some exchanges are scammy and they're running IEOs, and I always warn people that are asking me about it, do not do an IEO on not even a scammy exchange, on a non-respectable exchange, because that can completely destroy your project, and doesn't matter if you're amazing or not amazing, you will not succeed, because you will get bad reputation as soon as you go live, and even after the sale, you will not be able to get it off you.
Okay, I mean, you mentioned something, you said no, so I just, before we wrap it up, I just have this theoretical question. I know there is no right or wrong answer, it's just, subjective opinions most of the time, but what are your projections? Where is this sphere going towards? Like, what is going to happen in the future, apart from the ultimate goal of, ultimate freedom, financial freedom? Meanwhile, like, what are the trends that you feel are going to come very soon?
Yeah, so I really hate predicting, but like you mentioned, I will try as best as I can. So apart from the what you mentioned, that we're going to have more mass adoption and so on and so on, what I do see in the near future, in the next few years, is that by now, most of the Western countries figured out and realized that cryptocurrency is here to stay. Mm-hmm. And most of them realized that blockchain can, in fact, change a lot of things. Because last year we had, and at the beginning of this year, people were saying that, yeah, we heard about blockchain, blah, 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 blah. It's not working. But now it's changing. People are already seeing that banks implemented blockchain technology, other blockchain, huge corporates started doing blockchain. We have Microsoft, we have IBM, we have Facebook, obviously, with Libra. So I do think that we will have clear regulation in the next 2 to 3 years, at least in the biggest countries, the biggest Western countries.
Okay.
And I think that will open the door to the institutionals that are already joining the game very, very slowly now. But that will happen in the next 2 to 3 years, the way that I see it, and then it's going to explode. I do think, even though I said before that banks are going to be gone in 10, 15 years and everyone will use cryptocurrency, by the way, I don't think that fiat money is going to be gone. I'm talking about banks, and I do think that a lot of the governments will have a digital currency, their own digital currency. I just think that you won't need banks as middlemen anymore. It will be ridiculous to pay the commissions and so on and so on. Maybe they will evolve to something else, but I do think that we are going to see a huge, huge hype, maybe even 2 of them in the upcoming 5-6 years. The first one will probably happen in the next year or 2.
Nice.
And it's going to be much, much bigger than the hype that we had with the ICOs.
Nice.
Much bigger.
Sounds
So
good.
that's my prediction. And wishful thinking.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Really good. Thanks a lot for coming. I really appreciate your time. It was very interesting to speak to you. Who do you think would be, a good guest for the podcast to speak to next?
I would say James Poulter, if I'm saying his name right. Which obviously I didn't. It's the first time that I tried. Until now, I'm just saying James CDAM. So I think we'll stick to that.
James CDAM, sounds good. So thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks.